So for the past few years, I feel like the movie Haunt from 2019 has slid onto people's must-rewatch list for the month of October, but until now, I haven't actually watched it. This isn't actually the first movie that I've watched this year that is set in a Halloween/haunt attraction, so I can honestly say that my experiences so far this year have been very kind of hit or miss, if I'm being honest. Like, I loved Bloodfest from 2018, but I hated the houses October built from 2014. I'm more optimistic about Haunt though, because it is written by the same people that wrote A Quiet Place, and whether you love or hate this guy's movies, Eli Roth is one of the producers, and if you're promising me an extreme haunt attraction, I'm gonna have a little bit of trust in the guy that wrote, directed, and produced the original Hostel Part 1 and Part 2, and The Green Inferno. On Halloween, a group of friends encounter an extreme haunted house that promises to feed on their darkest fears. The house turns deadly as they come to the horrifying realization that some nightmares are real. As always here on my channel, I am now going to go and watch the movie off camera, so that way there will be no spoilers if you too haven't watched Haunt from 2019 yet. Nobody wants to watch a movie that you have just watched somebody else watch from start to finish.
Well, you're not hardcore. No, you're not hardcore.
I have no regrets picking that clip to describe my thoughts on this movie. Rule number 1 of haunt attractions: if the attraction comes to you, run a fucking mile. You are a target, not a customer at this point. I had no idea that this movie is actually set in Illinois, because fun fact, that's where my long distance girlfriend lives, so that was a happy bonus. However, I am going to call out the writers for this and say there are some striking similarities between this attraction and the real life haunt attraction in Illinois, Hell's Gate, particularly the 3 coffins scene. If you've seen this movie, you'll know this, and in Hell's Gate, they do a very similar stunt with steamer trunks. When it comes to movies in this particular setting, I do not think that I have found exactly what I want from one of these yet, and that is, I want a location that feels genuinely terrifying before absolutely everything kicks off. And that's an issue that I do have with this movie, because this doesn't feel like a legit haunt attraction / scare attraction. It feels like someone has gone to Home Depot, bought a batch job of plywood, and built this in their storage lockup and called it a day. Like, there's no theming whatsoever. It feels like a storage lockup. Like, there's nothing to it that says, apart from the people wearing costumes that go through this attraction, that it's set on Halloween. Like, nothing at all. I always think at haunt attractions that the scariest of the haunt actors are those that are deadly, deadly quiet and are clearly observing what is going on around them. Like, the second somebody starts screaming in my face the entire evening, I'm over it. It gets stale so quickly. And it is one of the things that this movie actually has going for it, because none of the scare actors, for the most part, actually have any dialogue. And because of this, you have no idea what anybody is thinking, and there is no indication of where things are actually going to go. So that goes in its favour. Haunt starts off very tame. Like, very, very tame for a haunt attraction. There is your typical, like, occasional jump scare and some chainsaw revving. But apart from that, it goes from about 10% to about 50% at the 50-minute mark. So maybe my expectations were too high, but this for me never found 100%. It never got up there. And it was around the 50-minute mark that it actually started to give me what I wanted, but it wasn't until the final 15 minutes that I felt like, oh, now we're finally in an extreme haunt attraction. Up to that point, the tension wasn't there, and it didn't feel like what it was being billed as. I will say, from the 50-minute mark, it will be very, very hit or miss for people, and it is entirely dependent on what you find personally scary. And for me, I didn't find this movie scary. I didn't find this movie scary at all. None of the jump scares landed for me at all, and that's not a good sign. If you can't land a jump scare on somebody, I am struggling to understand why this movie is an R18 rated, because to me, this should be a teen 15. It feels like a teen 15. There is a lot of implied stuff in this movie, and then you will hear the payoff and then see the aftermath. There's no language either. Like, I don't remember hearing anybody swear at any point, and there is hardly any blood in this, which I'm sure is great for people that don't like blood and gore. But for somebody that likes their horror movies to be gory and violent, until the end 15 minutes, it wasn't that. Without going into spoilers, and this is a reference that you will only understand if you have seen the movie Strangeland from 1997, this movie has the same opinion on body modifications, and that is a personal pet peeve of mine. Not body mods, because I have tattoos and piercings, obviously, but this opinion on people with body mods. There's already this, like, negative stigma with certain groups of people surrounding tattoos and piercings and extreme body modification, and I don't think this does anything to help that. This, in fact, only perpetuates that stigma. As I said in the beginning, if you're going to promise me an extreme haunt attraction, I have to put a little bit of trust in Eli Roth, and I am going to go on record here and openly admit that I don't like the Hostel movies. Like, Saw is 100 times better, and you will never change my opinion on that. But I appreciate what it did to push the boundaries of horror and the depictions of violence and gore. And I do not think that Haunt pushes those boundaries enough, and it falls quite flat. I think the foundations are there in this movie, but plywood and strips of LED lighting and from-a-bag costumes that you can get at Spirit Halloween, it's just not going to cut it. I'm going to need your haunt to have some kind of decoration, and you can't tell me that this is a budgeting thing, because there are some incredible things that people make every single year on a budget and put outside their own homes. So it's not an excuse. Like, I don't want to see in a haunt attraction bare plywood walls. Like, where did the budget go? Like, where did the budget go in this movie? Because it didn't go on scenery. It didn't go on costumes either. So where did the budget go? It may seem low, but I am going to give Haunt from 2019 a 2.5 out of 5 stars, because when I take everything into account, it's just meh for me personally. Like, when the solution to your threat is simply locking doors to keep them out, and to move your plot on you have to find another key, you're an escape room at this point. You're not a haunt attraction. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review on Haunt from 2019. If you have seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comment section down below, because I know that there are a lot of people out there that genuinely like this movie, so I feel like I'm going to be in the minority with this one. If you would like to know everything that I watch, not just the things that I post here on my YouTube channel, you can also find me over on Instagram. And on Monday, the day before Halloween, I will be back with another solo movie review of something else that is set in spooky season that I feel like I am very late to the party on. So until next time, bye!
you